What's good, everybody? We back with another episode. I know it's been a while, but there really hasn't been a whole lot to talk about. We ramping up the NBA season. Of course, the NFL season was over, but now we're coming up on the NFL draft, the NBA playoffs, NFL free agency just started, and of course, that's what I came to y'all to talk about today because it's been a wild one to say the least. Of course, we can start off with the Max Crosby deal that ended up being voided by the Baltimore Ravens. Who would have thought this would have ever happened? The fans were super excited because Baltimore was in dire need of pass rush. They were looking to add one of the best pass rushers in the game, one of the best defensive players in the game. But due to a failed physical, that trade got voided. So Baltimore got their 2 first-round picks back. The Raiders, of course, got Max Crosby back. It's always interesting because now it looks like he'll play for the Raiders once he gets healthy. However, of course, if he gets traded due to a failed physical, even though some teams can bypass that, I would think that his trade value would drop, which if you could get Crosby for anything less, I know there was speculation that people thought that 2 firsts was too much for Crosby. Coming off of this knee injury, going to be turning 29 years old at some point during this calendar year for this upcoming season. But nonetheless, he's one of the best defensive edges in the league, like I said, and one of the best defensive players in football overall. So it's unfortunate, but for Ravens fans, at least they did end up getting to sign Trey Hendrickson, which was a huge signing, 4 years, $112 million. Gets to the quarterback. My personal opinion, he's not as good against the run as Max Crosby is, but obviously pass rush is pretty equal. Hendrickson gets more sacks. Of course, Crosby is in the top of the league in TFL, so that matters as well. I believe he's number 1. But nonetheless, like I said, so the Ravens ended up getting Trey Hendrickson on that 4-year, $112 million deal. And then Tyler Linderbaum reset the market, getting 3 years, $81 million from the Raiders. So he leaves Baltimore to go to the Raiders. Super big pickup. He was a first round pick by the Ravens. He was a 3-time Pro Bowler. They declined his 5th-year option. So this year, though they did, I believe, offered him 4 years for $88 million. The 3 for $81 made more sense for Linderbaum. One, it's a couple more, about $5 to $6 million more per season. And on top of that, it'll probably give him, with his age, a time to hit the market one more time for another big contract because he'll continue to play at a high level. So that was well deserved. Probably the best center in football. If not, you could say number 2. I'm fine with that, but he's definitely top 2 centers in football. So hell of a signing for the Raiders and well deserved for Linderbaum. He did get a little overpaid, but sometimes you have to do that for those type guys. So to ensure you get them, you send the house. It paid off for the Raiders. They were super busy in this free agency as well, but we're just kind of going down the list here, hitting on some picks. The biggest acquisitions probably this far, and then, we'll get to them other players. Of course, Dallas did put the franchise tag on George Pickens. I really don't care for it too much, man. I understand he's still making a good chunk of money. I believe it's like $28.5 million this season. But at the same time, this guy went to your team. He balled out. He needs paid. He deserves to be paid. But in this game, the franchise tag is something that teams do have that they can use. So it is what it is. He's still getting a big chunk of money. Go out, have another good year. Hopefully he gets that money next year. But he will be a Dallas Cowboy next season. Alex Pierce, 4 years, $116 million. Well deserved. I mean, of course, the Colts moved on from Pittman. Alex Pierce has been good for them. They decided to keep him there, paid him. Not mad at it. Good receiver. Of course, your QB situation's up in the air. You don't really know what to expect out of that right at this moment. Will Daniel Jones be healthy at the beginning of the year? Who knows? But nonetheless, you want to get, a guy that you think can be your guy at receiver. You paid him. He well deserved for Alex Pierce staying there. Jalen Watson from Kansas City to the Rams. How weird is that? They trade for Trent McDuffie, right? Re-sign him immediately to a huge contract. And then they go and they get Jalen Watson out of free agency. So they got 2 Chiefs corners now in LA, which that Chiefs defense is good. I know maybe this year they might have underachieved a little bit, but over the course of the last few years, they've been one of the best teams in football. Trent McDuffie is one of the best nickels in football, if not maybe the best. That's debatable. You can get into that, but that's another conversation. So they re-signed him to a big contract, the biggest contract. And then, like I said, they got Jalen Watson in on a 3-year, $51 million. So they addressed the need for them, which is super important. Their back end is now damn good. And that front end, you already know what that D-line is for. So tough for them. Jalen Phillips, yeah, he just finds ways to make money. He ended up going from Miami to Philly, hit free agency, got 4 for 120 from the Panthers. Big time pickup for the Panthers. Things like this just kind of throw me off, though. It's like you had a guy like Brian Burns, which was one of the best DNs in football this year. You moved on from him, and then you get another chance to get a guy that's an outside backer, edge rusher, and you give him the money that you was just giving Brian Burns before you traded him. Like, this is why I think sometimes teams move on from players too fast, because if you put in perspective Brian Burns on this year's Carolina Panthers team, he would have been a big-time impact. They would have been that much better. And hell, even maybe you would have been had the cap to go out and get a Jalen Phillips. And you could have had a Derrick Brown, Jalen Phillips, and Brian Burns. But you just move on from players too fast sometimes, I think. And I'm not saying it didn't pay off for him or whatever. I don't remember exactly what they got out of that deal. But, like, when I see things like this, it's like, why? Like, you just had a guy that's better than this guy, although it's a linebacker to an edge. It's essentially, pass coverage, whatever. Jalen Phillips is a rusher. So you had a guy that was better that you moved away, and now you turn around and pay another guy a big contract. But, nonetheless, Jalen Phillips is a good player. But I'm saying as far as the organization, things like that just sometimes throw me off. And then how about Odafe Oweh, man? Well-deserved contract. Commanders, I do believe, overpaid for him. But again, you have to overpay sometimes. His production, based on his snaps in the games played, was good. Of course, he was a first-round pick for Baltimore. He really didn't pan out there. He was traded to the Chargers before the deadline last year. He ended up finishing with 7.5 sacks, showed flashes of being the Odafe that Baltimore hoped for him to be. And ultimately, it got him a 4-year, $100 million contract from the Washington Commanders this offseason. So that'll be a big pickup for them. They definitely need to pass rush. I just hope that they get the Oweh that the Chargers were getting and not the one that showed up in Baltimore that wasn't able to continuously get to the quarterback, because they did give him $100 million. But well-deserved. He got that first big contract off of his rookie deal. So, he started peaking at the right time. Hopefully he continues to make that upward trend and maybe can get another one in 3 or 4 years. But as far as the Commanders and their needs, I definitely think that was a good pickup. John Franklin Myers from Denver to Tennessee. I like that pickup for them as well. They got a good D-line. They did just cut Snead, though, which is interesting because they just paid him last summer. I know Snead had some rough games this year, but, at the end of the day, that defense was on the field a shit ton. It just, I don't know. Sometimes these teams are just so willing to just give up on money and waste this cap and all this stuff nowadays. You just really can't really put anything past an organization if it ain't a superstar player. And even then, as you see, like the Max Crosby situation, you can get moved as well. Although he kind of did one out, and then when the reality set in, I think it kind of made him feel a little differently. But nonetheless, they gave Jonathan Franklin Myers 3 years for $63 million. So that's a pretty solid pickup for them. I like that. Connor McGovern, stayed in Buffalo on 4 years for $52. Big, good guard. So it's good to keep him there. The Falcons, Kyle Pitts probably had his best season as a pro last year. Got franchise tagged. He'll get a good chunk of money. He was a top 5 pick, so unfortunate, but for a guy that really isn't proven, I think that's actually a good move by Atlanta, although, I kind of am somewhat against the franchise tag. I think for a player like Kyle Pitts, this is good. This is a big prove-it year for him. Come out, have a good year, you'll get paid, because they definitely ain't going to want to let him walk. Kyler Murray going to Minnesota on a 1-year vet minimum. This is an interesting situation for me because of a few things. One, they did this with Darnold. Darnold balled out. They were the number 1 seed. They were number 2 seed, but they won 14 games. He had a bad playoff game. They moved on from him. Darnold went to Seattle, played on a great team, strong defense, but ultimately won the Super Bowl and had another good season. So now you traded up to number 10 to get J.J. McCarthy. He missed the whole first season. He started year 2. He didn't really look like he's ready to be an NFL quarterback. You go out and you now get a 1-year vet minimum Kyler Murray, which is still young. So now if he comes in and he has a good year, you're not going to let him walk like you did Sam Darnold based on what just happened. So you'll now re-sign Kyler Murray to be your franchise guy because he's still young enough, which means you now traded up for a number 10 pick, and after 1 year of giving him the keys, you ultimately just dump on him. I understand you have Jettas. I understand Addison, the weapons, Hockenson, all of that, but to trade up for a guy, give up on him after 1 year essentially for another guy that's been struggling ever since early on in his career. Now, can Kyler Murray come out there He's a better thrower of football than JJ McCarthy, absolutely. He'll have Jettas and Addison. He's never had someone to the caliber of Jetta, so you don't know what that could be. You know, that could be interesting. But I mean, nonetheless, I like it. Fresh start sometimes is good. We've seen that with a couple quarterbacks. So maybe the time has ran its course in Arizona, and this move will, reignite not only Minnesota back into the playoff mix, but also Kyler Murray in his career. Because I mean, 1 year vet minimum deal, he's on to prove it right now. And if he don't prove it, probably won't get an opportunity again. He might be a backup for the rest of his career, considering the fact that next year is supposed to be a very strong QB class. So these teams that don't have quarterbacks coming into this year, that were filling voids because they don't trust the quarterbacks this year, then bridge quarterbacks. Essentially, Kyler could be a bridge quarterback as well if they were to have a bad season and they ended up with a top pick. Maybe they go quarterback again, but more than likely, this is going to be what the situation that happens out there. Kyler's going to either ball or he'll have a decent year, win some games, and then JJ McCarthy will ultimately end up getting a job back after a year behind him, which I don't really agree with because I don't think Kyler's a quarterback that's there to mentor. Like, I don't think he carries himself that way. I don't really feel like he has that persona. I don't think he cares. I know the man loves Call of Duty, like things like that. Like, he's not a real vet in the league. He's still young himself, so we'll see. But nonetheless, like I said, the fresh starts can be good for people, so never mad at it. And then Boy Mafe off the Super Bowl, now is a Bengal. 3 years, $60 million. The Bengals actually spent a little bit of money because they got him, linebacker, much needed. They also got Jonathan Allen on I think 2 year, $28 million, a D tackle, much needed. They also got Brian Cook from the Chiefs on a 3 year, $40 million at the safety. So they've addressed all three levels so far this offseason. It's good to see them doing that because their defense definitely needs help. But ultimately, these are guys that are filling voids that were needed, but they still aren't getting any real big game changers. So we'll see what happens. Devin Lloyd, 3 years, $45 million. Of course, he was a Jag. He is now a Panther. So the Panthers with two big signings this offseason on the defensive side of the ball, both at the linebacker core. Breece Hall stayed on the franchise tag. Interesting because that's been a crazy situation there. Kind of seemed like they didn't want him for a while. But, nonetheless, he got franchise tag. He'll get paid, so it is what it is. But I like Breece Hall. I hope he deserves to get paid, and I hope he gets paid at some point. Daniel Jones, 2 years, $88 million. A lot of money for a quarterback coming off of this injury, but, I mean, he did play well. So, you want him to be your guy. 2 year contract, not bad. It is what it is. Alontae Taylor went from the Saints to the Titans, 3 years, $60 million. So we talked about L'Jarius Sneed being cut earlier after an $81 million deal last year, I believe. Then they go sign another corner for 3 years, $60 million, and cut the guy they signed last year to be their number one. So this is what I'm saying. Like, teams just throw money around. It's crazy, but it is what it is. Jaquan Brister went from the Bears to the Steelers on a 1 year, $5.5 million deal. Solid pickup for them. Kenneth Walker, of course, big time running back. Got to be healthy though. Went from Super Bowl Seattle Seahawks to the Kansas City Chiefs on a 3 year, $43.5 million deal. I like that deal pretty well, actually. I already mentioned Brian Cook. You've had Tyreek Woolen, Super Bowl winning corner from the Seahawks, going to Philly on a 1 year, $15 million deal. That makes this secondary very good with Cooper DeJean, Quinyon Mitchell, and now Tyreek Woolen. I mean, you got three guys that can buckle up. Schematically, that's going to be fun. That's going to be fun to deal with for sure. You got to be loving what you got now as a defensive coordinator if you're the Philadelphia Eagles. So that's a good pickup for them. Likely, of course, from the Ravens to the Giants on a 3 year, $40 million deal. Well deserved. Has the potential to be one of the better tight ends in the league. Definitely deserving of a number one opportunity. And now he gets it going from Baltimore to New York where he will be the clear-cut number one. Jamel Dean, from the Bucks to the Steelers, 3 years, $36.7 million. Jamel Dean's a solid corner. Pittsburgh, I'm kind of like old guy. You did that with Ramsey, then you transition him to safety midseason. You're going to take a chance on another guy that wasn't as elite as Ramsey, but now you're going to have to keep him there unless you transition him to safety with Ramsey as well. But you still got your young corner, Porter. So, I don't know. We'll see what happens. I mean, it's a good pickup, though. Nick Cross from the Colts to the Commanders. I like that pickup a lot, and they got him for 2 years, $14 million. So, he proved himself. He'll probably get paid a big contract to stay with them there in a few years. Romeo Dubes, Dobbs, I'm sorry, from Green Bay to New England, 4 years, 68. They went, and I guess they felt he was the number one guy. I'm gonna go get a number one guy like him. But the problem is, he got good hands, he got good speed, but is he a true number one? And will he be able to win you games in Foxborough, when you need him? Because these bad weather games were tough for New England this year offensively. But nonetheless, good signing, well deserved. ETN, 4 years, 52 mil, left the Jags, went to the Saints, and then Leo Chenal from the Chiefs to the Commanders, another good signing for them. Young linebacker, solid linebacker, 3 years, 24 mil. You had Braxton Jones stay with Chicago on a 1 year, 10 mil. Vera Tucker, which I actually thought the Ravens would make a big play on him. He ended up going to New England from New York. So that's a big move for them. 3 years, 42 million. Malik Willis, well deserved, all 6 starts last year. After looking like, his time was done, he was going to be a backup forever after the Tennessee stint. Went to Green Bay, showed signs of growth, and now got a 3 year, $67.5 million deal in Miami to take over for Tua. It'll be interesting with the speeds and the weapon out there to see what they'll be able to do. And then Jalen Thompson, I like him a lot. The safety from Arizona. He went to Dallas on a 3 year, $36 million deal. Nakobe Dean, big time signing by the Raiders. I think their 2 moves with the linebackers they signed, him and Quay Walker this offseason. They might have the best linebacker tandem in the league with those 2 young guys. But, Quay from the Eagles to the Raiders on that 3 year, $36 million. Joey Bosa, I believe, is still a free agent, which, older guy, but could be a solid grab for a team that needs some pass rush. Interesting to see where he ends up. Draymond Jones, of course, the Ravens traded for him. He was good for them off the edge, but he got a contract now with the Patriots on a 3 years, $39.5 million. So well deserved for him because he did come in and help that Baltimore defense a lot when he got traded before the deadline. The Panthers did lose their center to the Lions, though, which the Lions needed a center, of course, with theirs retiring. So they got Cade Mays for 3 years, $25 million. Mike Evans leaving Tampa Bay, to go to San Fran was kind of surprising. I thought he would have ended his career there. However, I'm not mad at the move. 3 years, $60 million. They paid him. Great position to be in. Of course, there are situations with their receivers. New scenery for him. Good team. Can definitely go make some noise. So that's a good signing for them for sure. Rashid Shaheed stayed in Seattle 3 years, $51 million. Good signing by them to keep him there because he's a big play guy. Alohi Gilman Ravens traded for him before the deadline. He played good, but he ends up in Kansas City on 3 years, $24 million. Bobby Wagner, Stephon Diggs, 2 names that are older, still solid guys. Can definitely help your team if you need them. They're both still out in free agency, so it'll be interesting to see where they go. Commanders also signed a Convo, the tight end from Tennessee, on a 3 year, $30 million deal, which I like that deal a lot. He's a solid tight end. They brought Hurts back, but of course Hurts is on his way out the door. This is probably definitely his last year, so I like that signing for them. And then Kwity Paye went from the Colts to the Raiders, 3 years, $48 million. So again, another big time signing. Now with Crosby back in the mix, you could be looking at Kwity Paye and Crosby on the edge. That's nice. With Quay Walker and Nakobe Dean, and they traded for Taron Johnson, and they signed. There's another corner. We'll get to him. I don't think I got to him yet, but he signed another corner that's good as well. So they made some moves, man. They spent some money. It's going to be interesting to see what that Raiders team looks like next year. Kobe Bryant went from Seattle to Chicago on 3 years, $40 million. Wan'Dale Robinson went to the Titans on a 4 year, $78 million deal from the Giants. I like that. He went and got some money. Nice. They need weapons, so I give him the chance. I'm not super high on Wan'Dale, but I guess if you have nothing, he can definitely help you, and I don't mean that in a bad way, but I'm saying for you to give him $78 million, you look at him in the Christian Kirk realms of when he got paid, things like that. So that's good for him. That could be big for them as well. We'll see. You actually get to see they got Reed Blankenship went to Houston too. That was a good pickup for them. Pretty solid. 3 years, $24 million. They did keep Josh Jobe in Seattle. That's one of the few players they kept. 3 years, $24 million. Cade Otton stayed in Tampa, 3 years, $30 million. Jalen Hawkins went from the Pats to the Ravens, 2 years, $10 million. That's actually a big time pickup for them. Ardarius Washington went to the Giants. He was like that third safety with Malachi Starks and Kyle Hamilton. So now that you get Jalen Hawkins, he's probably he's more dynamic, more versatile. So that's a good signing for them. I think he'll be good for that defense there. Solid, you know, put him in a spot where you need him. Devin Bush from the Browns to the Bears. That's a good pickup for the Bears for sure. 3 years, $30 million. Kevin Byard, Bears, the Pats, 1 year, $9 million. Kevin Byard had a good year for them, so that's a good pickup for the Pats, especially on a 1 year deal. Spend the money if you got it. Kenneth Gainwell went to the Bucks on 2 years, $14 million. It's interesting because they loved using him a lot last year, and if A-Rod came back, you would assume that again. But that's a good pickup by the Bucks. You know, definitely be able to use him. Charlie Kolar went and got paid from the Chargers. He moved on from the Ravens, 3 years, $24 million. Chazon from the Pats to the Commanders. So what the Commanders did here, as you've seen with Owe, they went out and got these first round picks that haven't yet panned out, and hoping that they're at their point where they're going to start peaking and hit their potential. And so they're buying low on high potential guys at one point in time and hoping that they can get something based on what they've seen last year. So I'm not mad at it. I'm solid pickup for him. We'll see how it plays out with him at OA for that Commanders front seven. Khalil Mack stayed in with the Chargers on a 1 year, $18 million deal. Von Miller's still a free agent. He can still help someone, and I'm sure not, an every down dominant guy anymore, but definitely still good enough to get things done. It's crazy because we talk about the Chargers and their needs in offense, and you would say offensive line, but yet they lose a guard to the Browns, 3 years, $49.5 million. So we'll see. Dallas Goedert's still a free agent. Interesting. Sebastian Joseph Day. Quay Walker is the other guy I told you about earlier that went to the Raiders, 3 years, $40.5 from Green Bay. So I like that linebacker tandem there a lot. Cameron Jordan's still the free agent. He's kind of over the hill. Demario Davis left, went to the Jets on a 2 year, $22 million. So for an older linebacker, good leader, that'll be good for their defense there. But he's going from one bad team to another to be the defensive leader in a sense. He's getting his money on the back end of his career. That's what it is. And hopefully he can help turn that franchise around. Travis Kelce, of course, signed back on a 1 year, $12 million deal. Keenan Allen's still a free agent. I would assume he probably works something out with the Chargers. He had a good year for them last year. He is 33, though, so we'll see. Aaron Jones, 1 year, $5.5 million deal. Stayed in Minnesota. Rico Dowdle, after his big year that he had, he went and got 2 years, $12 million from the Pittsburgh Steelers. So they decided to take him, I guess, over Gainwell. I don't know which transaction happened first. J.K. got re-signed 2 years, $20 million, even off the injury, which is good for him, man, because he's been injury riddled. It's always big injuries. It's never nothing small. So the fact that he was having a good year, got hurt, and they still were able to re-sign him for basically essentially $10 million per season. That's nice. I'm sure all that's not guaranteed, but it's still a good contract. David Njoku's still a free agent, which is interesting. Braden Smith went from the Colts to the Texans, 2 years, $25 million, stayed in division, and that's a hell of a lineman, so that's a good grab for them. Eric Stokes, Raiders, 3 years, $30 million. So there's Stokes. That's a good signing. He stayed. Cameron Curl got re-signed by the Rams, 3 years, $36 million. Of course, earlier I mentioned Jonathan Allen, 2 years, $28 million from the Vikings to the Bengals. Rashad White, 1 year deal. He is now a Commander, so we'll see how that goes. I don't know about that pickup too much. I mean, they need running backs, so why not? Algier, they love their power backs in Arizona, so now Algier will back up James Conner, 2 years, $12 million. Marcus Mariota re-signed to be Jaden Daniels backup, of course, 1 year, $7 million. So, that's pretty much free agency in a nutshell so far, man. And then the draft is coming up. I will be doing a video very soon on the mock draft. I'm kind of just trying to wait till things get closer because you got to see how all these pro days and things go. I don't want to kind of speak on things now and then my feelings change and I have to speak on it again because, it's just going to be one in-depth video kind of like this where I was just going live, basically talking about these pickups and how I feel about them essentially in a rundown. This is all we got for the NFL right now, so we got to enjoy it. But nonetheless, y'all know the vibes. Like, comment, subscribe, tap that bell, turn post notifications on so you get a notification every time I drop. I will be getting back to 2 or 3 videos per week. I know I've been slacking lately, but like I said, I appreciate everybody. Tap that bell so you get them post noties. And as always, I appreciate y'all.